Have you ever swiped right on what seemed like the perfect match, only to find yourself trapped in a nightmare that defies belief? The glow of your phone screen, promising connection, warmth, maybe even love, suddenly flickers, and in its place, you see a chilling reflection of your worst fears. In the dark underbelly of online dating where algorithms promise connection but sometimes deliver terror, these 4 true stories will make you think twice about trusting a stranger behind a screen. From ghosting gone grotesquely wrong, to encounters that blur the line between romance and psychological warfare, these chilling tales expose the hidden dangers lurking in digital dating platforms. People, often hidden behind carefully curated profiles, transform into monsters in the shadows of the digital world. And if you think you've heard it all, wait until you hear the final story. A shocking encounter so unbelievable that it will make you question everything you thought you knew about online connections. Are you ready to face the darkness? Our first story takes us to the bustling city of Chicago, where 28-year-old Sarah, a graphic designer, quick wit, and an even quicker smile, thought she'd found something special on a popular dating app. Mark, a handsome architect with a charmingly self-deprecating bio, seemed almost too good to be true. They messaged constantly for weeks, their conversations flowing effortlessly from witty banter about their favorite movies, to late-night discussions about their hopes and dreams. He even sent her pictures of his adorable golden retriever puppy, aptly named Architect because, as Mark put it, he loved to design messes. Sarah, smitten, thought she'd hit the jackpot. They planned a date for a Friday night, a cozy Italian restaurant Sarah had been wanting to try. But when Friday rolled around, Mark was a no-show. No text, no call, no explanation. He had vanished. Ghosted. Sarah, initially annoyed, brushed it off as just another bad date story for her collection. But something about Mark's disappearance felt different, off. He hadn't just disappeared from the date, he'd vanished from the app entirely. His profile, once filled with pictures of his smiling face and witty captions, was gone. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The unanswered questions gnawed at her. Then, one evening while scrolling through a local news website, her blood ran cold. There, plastered across the screen, was Mark's face, his familiar smile now a chilling smirk. The headline screamed, "Local architect arrested in string of robberies." The article detailed how Mark had been targeting women on dating apps, charming them with his wit and looks, only to rob them on their first dates. The police believed there were more victims, women too embarrassed or afraid to come forward. Sarah, piecing together the timeline, realized with a shudder that the night Mark was supposed to meet her, the same night he ghosted her, a robbery had occurred at a jewelry store just a few blocks from the Italian restaurant. He hadn't just stood her up, he'd chosen a more lucrative target. Sarah, now realizing the danger she had narrowly escaped, contacted the police to share her story. She found solace in knowing she wasn't alone, and that justice was being served. Our next story takes us to the sun-drenched beaches of Miami, where 25-year-old aspiring actress Maria found herself falling for a man who existed only in the digital ether. His name was David, a handsome musician with soulful eyes and a voice that could melt glaciers. They met on a dating app geared towards creative individuals, and Maria was immediately drawn to his poetic messages and his passion for music, a passion they shared. They spent hours talking online, sharing their dreams, their fears, their vulnerabilities. David, claiming to be on tour in Europe, would send Maria voice notes late at night, his voice a soothing balm in the darkness. He'd sing her snippets of songs he was working on, each note a testament to the deep connection Maria believed they shared. Weeks turned into months, and Maria found herself falling deeper into the rabbit hole of their online romance. They exchanged countless messages, shared intimate secrets, but something always held David back from a video call. He always had an excuse. Bad lighting, a broken camera, a strict no-video policy in his recording studio. Maria, blinded by her feelings, chose to believe him. One day David messaged Maria, his usually upbeat tone laced with desperation. He told her he was in trouble, stranded in a foreign country after being robbed. He needed money for a plane ticket back home. He begged Maria to help him, promising to pay her back the moment he got back on his feet. Maria, her heart aching for the man she thought she knew, wired him all the money she had saved for acting classes. It was a sacrifice she was willing to make for the man she believed was the love of her life. But the moment the money was sent, David disappeared. His messages stopped, his voice notes went silent, his digital presence vanished into thin air. Maria, heartbroken and financially drained, finally realized the devastating truth. David wasn't a musician stranded in Europe, he was a figment of her imagination, a carefully crafted persona designed to exploit her kindness and steal her money. She had fallen in love with a ghost, a phantom who left her with nothing but a shattered heart and an empty bank account. Maria's story is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the digital world. It's a world where not everything is as it seems, and where trust can be easily manipulated. Her experience serves as a wake-up call for all of us to be more vigilant and discerning in our online interactions. Chapter 3, The Stalker Next Door. Picture this. The vibrant energy of New York City, where amidst the millions, 23-year-old Emily, a graduate student, hoped to find her perfect match. She met Chris on an app that boasted compatibility algorithms, promising to connect kindred spirits amidst the urban jungle. Chris, a charming writer with a love for classic literature, seemed to share Emily's passion for books, poetry, and long walks in Central Park. They had their first date at a cozy bookstore cafe, their conversation flowing as seamlessly as the lines of their favorite poems. Emily, charmed by Chris's intelligence and wit, felt a spark she hadn't felt in a long time. They planned a second date, then a third, each encounter solidifying Emily's belief that she had found someone special. But slowly, subtly, things began to shift. Chris started appearing at places Emily frequented, places he had no reason to be. She'd be at her favorite coffee shop, lost in a book, and there he'd be, a few tables away, his eyes glued to her. Or she'd be walking home from the library and she'd spot him across the street, his gaze unwavering. At first, Emily dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence. New York was a big city after all, but as the coincidences mounted, a chill snaked down her spine. He knew her schedule, her routines, her favorite spots, details she'd never explicitly shared with him. It was as if he was always one step ahead, lurking in the background of her life. Then came the gifts. Small at first, a single red rose left on her doorstep, a book she'd mentioned wanting, tucked into her mailbox. But the gifts escalated, becoming more personal, more unnerving. A framed photograph of her apartment building, taken from an angle that suggested intimate knowledge of her daily movements. A handwritten note slipped under her door, its words a chilling echo of her deepest fears and insecurities. Chapter 4: The Unbelievable Encounter. Our final story takes us to the serene landscapes of the Pacific Northwest, where 27-year-old Ethan, a software engineer, had an online encounter so bizarre, so deeply unsettling, that it blurred the lines between reality and a waking nightmare. This is a tale that will make you question the very fabric of what is real and what is imagined. He met Olivia on a dating app that emphasized shared interests, and on the surface they seemed perfectly matched. Their profiles were like mirror images, reflecting each other's passions and hobbies. They were both avid hikers, loved indie music, and had a shared passion for photography. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them together. They messaged for a few weeks, their conversations filled with shared dreams of summiting distant peaks and capturing the world's beauty through their lenses. Each message deepened their connection, making the anticipation of meeting in person almost unbearable. They decided to meet for a hike at a scenic trail just outside the city, a trail known for its breathtaking views and challenging terrain. It was the perfect setting for their first encounter. The day of the hike dawned bright and clear, and Ethan, excited to finally meet Olivia face-to-face, arrived at the trailhead early. His heart raced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He waited, anticipation bubbling in his chest, but Olivia was nowhere to be found. The minutes ticked by slowly, each one amplifying his anxiety. Minutes turned into an hour, then two, and still, there was no sign of her. The once inviting trail now seemed to mock his solitude. Ethan, his phone devoid of any messages from Olivia, began to feel a knot of worry tightening in his stomach. He checked his phone repeatedly, hoping for a message that never came. He decided to hike a short distance, hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but the trail was eerily deserted. The silence of the forest was almost deafening. The only sounds were the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves in the wind. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath. As he rounded a bend, he noticed something strange, a small, worn-out leather-bound journal lying open on a rock beside the trail. It seemed out of place in the otherwise pristine environment. Curious, he picked it up, its pages filled with frantic, almost illegible handwriting. The words seemed to leap off the page, each one more desperate than the last. As he flipped through the brittle pages, his blood ran cold. The journal was a window into Olivia's mind, revealing her deepest fears and anxieties. The journal belonged to Olivia, and its entries detailed a series of increasingly disturbing events leading up to that very day. Each entry was a cry for help, a plea for someone to understand her terror. She wrote of being followed, of feeling someone watching her, of a growing sense of dread that something terrible was about to happen. Her fear was palpable, almost tangible. The final entry, scrawled in a shaky hand, sent shivers down Ethan's spine. It was a stark contrast to the earlier entries, filled with a sense of impending doom. It simply read, "He's here, I can see him, he's watching me, I have to run, I have to hide." The urgency in her words was unmistakable. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. The realization that Olivia had been in imminent danger gripped him with fear. He looked around, his eyes scanning the dense forest surrounding the trail, every shadow seeming to conceal a lurking danger. The forest, once a place of beauty, now felt like a sinister maze. He called out Olivia's name, his voice trembling, but the only response was the echo of his own fear bouncing back from the silent trees. The forest seemed to swallow his cries, leaving him in a chilling silence. The digital age has opened up incredible avenues for connection, but as we've seen, it's also opened a Pandora's box of terrifying possibilities. These stories stand as chilling reminders that in the world of online dating, not everyone is who they seem. The next time you swipe right, remember these tales, trust your instincts, be cautious, be aware, because behind the veil of anonymity, the digital world can be a hunting ground for predators seeking to exploit the vulnerable and unsuspecting. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and always remember that sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones hiding in plain sight, lurking behind the glow of our screens.